Welcome back to the deep dive. We're here again to unpack some really compelling ideas and help you get to the core of what matters. Today, we're diving into something pretty fascinating. It's this intersection of consciousness, quantum physics, and, well, ancient wisdom, too. Our mission, really, is to challenge maybe a core assumption you hold about your mind and reality. We want to explore how your internal state, what's going on inside, might actually be shaping your external experience. We're drawing our insights today from a really thought-provoking YouTube video. It's called How to Create Quantum Events That Shift Your Reality, a complete guide from the Hidden Archives channel. Offers a unique angle, and we're excited to get into it. So let's start with a question, maybe one you haven't really thought about much. Where exactly is your mind? I mean, for centuries, right, many of us grew up with this narrative, this common idea that our mind is just a byproduct of the brain, like a flickering spark in all those neurons. And this view often implies that, everything real, everything that matters is kind of stuck inside our physical body. But I bet maybe deep down, something inside you has sensed there's more to it. Maybe you've had those weird synchronicities, things that just feel too perfect to be random chance. Or maybe a dream that felt prophetic, or just those gut feelings, those intuitions that turned out to be absolutely right. It's like you've caught a glimpse of something bigger, right? Something interconnected, even though we're often told, just ignore that stuff.
Yeah, it's funny how those little nudges, those intuitions, really line up with what we're digging into today. This whole perspective, it invites this pretty profound shift. Like, what if you're not actually a mind inside a body? What if instead you're more like a vast field of consciousness that's just sort of momentarily localizing itself in human form? And look, this isn't just, philosophy floating in the clouds. This is modern science, especially quantum physics, neuroscience too. It's starting to echo some of this ancient wisdom. It's suggesting the observer, that's you, and the world out there, maybe no one's so separate after all. An intention, maybe it's not just a wish, maybe it's a real force that can ripple through space-time itself. It's less about it adopting some new belief system and more like stepping through the doorway, a threshold of perception.
Right, stepping through that doorway. And that means we kind of have to look again at what we've been told about the mind being, isolated. For so long, consciousness was just seen as brain activity, right? Neurons firing, chemicals doing their thing, confined. And okay, that model, it led to amazing medical advances, no doubt. But in another way, it also kind of built this prison of perception, right? Because if your mind is only brain activity, then your whole experience feels limited by your biology. It's easy to end up feeling, trapped inside your head, sort of cut off.
Exactly, and that feeling, that sense of being confined, it's really being challenged now. That old truth is, as the source puts it, unraveling under the weight of its own limitations.
Yeah.
And this isn't just talk. It's backed by actual empirical discoveries.
Yeah.
You look at neuroscience. Neuroscientists increasingly see the brain less like a camera just recording the world and more like a prediction machine.
Mm-hmm.
It's actively building a model of reality, based on your past, your biases. It's essentially generating the world you perceive.
Wow. Okay. And then you add quantum physics into the mix, and it gets even wilder. Scientists finding that the universe doesn't really seem to exist in a fixed state until something observes it. The act of looking changes the outcome.
Precisely. And then there's quantum entanglement. This is where particles, even separated by huge distances, seem to instantly influence each other. It really hints that maybe separation itself is kind of an illusion. These aren't just little oddities. They're like cracks in the foundation of materialism. They point towards a reality that's, fundamentally relational, participatory, and deeply interconnected. It suggests maybe we're far more intertwined with everything than we usually think.
Okay, so let's break that down. What does this actually mean for you, for me, in our daily lives? It's suggesting your mind isn't this closed-off system. It's not just the output of your brain matter. Instead, this perspective says it's more like an energetic field, a luminous web of awareness that extends far beyond the confines of skin and bone. And in this view, your thoughts, they aren't just little chemical blips. They're vibrations, frequencies, emissions that actually interact with the world.
Right, so how do we get our heads around this idea, this non-local mind thing, where consciousness isn't just here in this spot? The radio analogy is pretty useful. Think about it. The radio receiver, it's right there in your house or your car. But the music, the broadcast, it isn't originating inside the plastic box. It's coming from somewhere else. It's kind of everywhere at once. So maybe your brain is like that localized receiver. Yeah. A biological interface.
Yeah.
But your consciousness, your awareness itself might originate from and operate within this larger unified field.
Yeah.
And this isn't actually a brand new idea. Many indigenous traditions, mystics, ancient spiritual paths, they've always talked about this interconnectedness. They saw intuition, energetic realms as just, well, parts of reality.
Yeah.
It's really compelling to see modern science now sort of catching up.
Yeah, it is. And this understanding, it leads straight to this idea of co-creation. If your mind is part of this bigger non-local field, you're not just passively soaking up information like a sponge. You're actually actively co-creating meaning. You're not just a spectator watching the universe unfold.
You're a participant.
Exactly. You're a participant. Every thought, every little emotional pulse, every expectation you hold, it's like tossing a pebble into a pond. It creates ripples. And those ripples, this perspective suggests, influence what reality shows you next. It's seen by some as more than philosophy. It's like physics, biology, and the next frontier of human evolution all rolled into one.
And the implications there are, well, they're huge. Profound, really. If your mind isn't limited by your body, then your influence isn't limited by physical distance either. This view suggests you can potentially affect outcomes, events, even people across distance and time. Not like waving a magic wand, but through resonance, through connection. It basically reframes every single moment. Every moment becomes this opportunity to consciously direct your focus, your energy towards the reality you genuinely want to experience. And the first step really is just dissolving that illusion that your consciousness is somehow trapped inside your skin.
Right. So to really get the scale of this, we need to kind of step outside that narrow box of individualism that society often puts us in. You're not just this isolated observer looking out from behind your eyes. Think of yourself more like a living node in a vast intelligent system of energy, or a vibrating strand in a tapestry that's so complex the lines between you and universe start to get blurry, and this bigger system, this energetic foundation, that's often called the quantum field.
Yeah, the quantum field. And it's not just empty space, not according to this view. It's described as a dynamic living sea of energy and potential.
Yeah.
Well, you can't see it directly, right? But its effects are measurable.
Yeah.
Think about it. Every particle, every atom, everything you think of as solid, it isn't really solid. It's seen as a localized excitation of this field, a ripple, a vibration. So you're not just looking at this field, you're literally made of it, which means that boundary between your body and everything else, it's not a hard line. It's fluid, porous, energetic. Every breath, every thought, every feeling, it radiates out like a frequency into this field. It extends way beyond your physical self.
And the really amazing part is this field isn't just passive waiting for things to happen. This perspective suggests it's intelligent in its architecture. Like it holds the blueprint for all possible realities, all potential versions of you. It actually echoes some ancient ideas like the akasha or ether you find in mystical traditions.
And if you really sit with that, within this quantum field, particles exist as possibilities, right? So, until they're observed. So what is it that collapses these possibilities into the concrete things we experience?
This view points directly at consciousness, awareness, intention. It suggests your mind is actually a creative force. It actively participates in making reality, not by force, but through resonance. Like when your thoughts are really focused and they're charged up with emotion, they're thought to emit a frequency. And that frequency interacts with the field, drawing matching circumstances towards you. It's like hitting a tuning fork, right? And another tuning fork with the same pitch across the room starts humming. Resonance. That's a really good analogy. And it's not just your conscious thoughts doing this, right? It's your whole energetic state. Your emotions, where you tend to put your focus, even the assumptions you don't realize you have. All of that makes up what this perspective calls your vibrational signature. And it's that signature the field is supposedly responding to. So you're always broadcasting, basically, whether you know it or not. And that interaction shapes your experience.
Absolutely. And that's why real change, according to this view, doesn't start out there. It always starts inside. It begins with a shift in frequency, maybe a change in how coherent your inner state is, a softening of resistance, maybe just being more present. The quantum field isn't like working on a schedule. It responds to the clarity and consistency of your vibration. So when your internal state lines up with a possibility that exists in the field, that possibility becomes more probable. And when that alignment gets stable, that probability, well, it's believed to collapse into your actual reality.
And our bodies play a role too, not just bystanders. You mentioned it's like a living antenna sending and receiving signals. I mean, we know the heart has a magnetic field you can measure feet away. The brain has electrical activity. But this suggests something even more subtle, right? The field of your intention. So when you feel connected, grateful, aligned, that field expands. When you're anxious, ashamed, disconnected, it contracts. And these aren't just feelings, they're seen as measurable shifts in energy.
Exactly. So if you operate thinking your mind just stops at your skull, you're only using a tiny fraction of your potential, according to this view. But when you start to live from this awareness of non-local consciousness, knowing your presence ripples out and interacts, you stop trying to force reality from the outside. You start to influence it from the inside.
Okay, this leads us to a really big question then. What if the world you perceive is not the world as it is, but the world as you are? I mean, mostly we think reality is objective, fixed, like a brick wall we keep running into, not a mirror reflecting us.
Right. But once you start thinking about consciousness as non-local and connected to this quantum field, reality starts looking less like a fixed script. It looks more like a feedback loop, maybe even a simulation co-authored by your own mind. And modern neuroscience, viewed through this lens, kind of backs this up. The brain isn't just passively recording. It's that prediction machine again. It's constantly building a model of the world based on everything you've ever experienced, memories, emotions, beliefs. And it's updating it, always trying to maintain this illusion of coherence.
Which means our experience of reality isn't just filtered by our eyes and ears. It's deeply filtered by our subconscious programming. So if you've been conditioned, say, to expect disappointment, your brain might actually unconsciously filter what you notice to confirm that expectation. Or if you have these deep beliefs about not being worthy, you might push away good things without even realizing it. But to you, it just feels like, well, that's just how things are. Things just happen that way.
Exactly. But maybe they aren't accidents. Maybe they're reflections. You're looking at a mirror, not a wall. And this mirror is like multidimensional.
Yeah.
It's a lead to reflect not just your conscious thoughts, but the frequency of your emotions, your deep assumptions, the patterns in your nervous system. And a lot of people, maybe most people, live inside this kind of echo chamber without ever seeing how they are contributing to the echo.
Yeah, the source material paints a vivid picture of this loop. It's like maybe you expect disappointment, so you feel hopeless. That feeling changes your energy. Then you start noticing only things that confirm you should feel hopeless. Your attention gets biased, your thoughts narrow down, your body prepares for loss. And the quantum field, being neutral, just reflects that frequency back. Maybe as delayed dreams, difficult relationships, missed chances. And because it matches how you feel inside, you think, see, that's just the truth. And the loop gets stronger.
But here's the flip side. If the mirror reflects, it can also reveal. It can show you the patterns, yes.
Yeah.
But it also shows you the incredible power you have to change those patterns. When you start to see reality as interactive, as listening and responding, you shift. You go from feeling like a victim of your circumstances to potentially being the creator of them. You stop trying to change the world out there, and you start mastering the signals you're sending from in here.
And let's be really clear here. This isn't about blaming yourself, right? It's not your fault if your mind unconsciously learned to expect certain things, but it is about taking responsibility, maybe radical responsibility, for whether you keep creating from that old program or choose conscious participation.
The quantum field, in this view, does not judge your story. It simply responds to your signal. And your signal isn't just what you say you want. It's who you are being emotionally, energetically, consistently.
So reality isn't fixed, it's fluid.
Exactly. Like any mirror, it changes the moment you change. When you shift your internal frequency, embody a new emotional baseline, maybe trust, empowerment, self-worth, the world, the perspective argues, has to start bending around that new you. Maybe not instantly, but undeniably. The argument is, you're here to wake up to this, to see the world as a living mirror and learn how to shape its reflection by shaping yourself.
Okay, now let's think about this. Hidden current. Something running underneath every thought, every choice, every feeling. This is what some call the hidden architect, the part of you shaping reality without your conscious, okay?
Yeah.
We're talking about the subconscious mind, this invisible force that's quietly building the frame for your daily life.
Yeah, and neuroscience gives us a pretty humbling statistic here. Our conscious mind, it governs maybe 5% of our cognitive activity. The other 95%, that's the subconscious, that's the true operating system, running in the background, mostly unseen, unquestioned, but incredibly powerful. And the subconscious, it doesn't really speak logic. It speaks repetition. It gets formed through emotional imprinting, especially when we're young, right? And it gets solidified by constant exposure to patterns of thought, feeling, belief. And these experiences become like mental scripts or software that then filter everything.
And it's crucial to get this. The subconscious isn't out to get you. It's not your enemy. Its main job is actually to keep you safe and keep things familiar.
Hmm.
Even if familiar means pain or limitation or struggle. If your nervous system learned how to survive under certain conditions, your subconscious will work tirelessly to recreate those conditions because that's what feels known.
Right. And that's a huge reason why people feel stuck. They consciously want change. They set goals. They say affirmations, visualize. But life stays pretty much the same. Why? Because while the conscious 5% wants transformation, the subconscious 95% is still running on old data. It's still expecting rejection or failure or scarcity. It's anchored in feeling unworthy. And the quantum field, being neutral, isn't just responding to the wishful thinking. It's responding to the overall vibrational signal.
Yeah.
And that signal comes from what you deeply believe is safe, possible, and true for you.
So if you really want to change your life, it's not about fighting your subconscious with willpower. It's about reprogramming it. Through repetition, yes, but also through elevated emotional states and really through the embodiment of a new identity. But the very first step, just becoming aware of the patterns that are running the show right now. That takes courage, yeah, and what the source calls radical responsibility. But that awareness, that's the beginning of liberation.
And what's really key here is that the subconscious learns best through emotion, not logic. So this perspective suggests the fastest path to transformation isn't just piling on more information, it's creating new experiences. Experiences that carry a higher emotional frequency. Things like genuine gratitude or joy, feeling truly safe or empowered. When you feel those states consistently, they start to overwrite the old scripts. They become the new familiar. And as the subconscious shifts, your baseline frequency changes. And the field, responding to that new frequency, can start reflecting back different outcomes.
So the hidden architect isn't some outside force. It's you. It's the deeper you. And the moment you become conscious of how it works, you start reclaiming your own blueprint. You start rewiring your relationship to reality from the inside out.
That's where true transformation happens, not just changing circumstances, but in the elevation of identity.
Okay, let's talk about those repeating patterns. Ever notice how sometimes the same kind of relationship keeps popping up? Or maybe financial struggles feel like they're on a loop. Or a specific fear just finds new costumes.
Yeah, we all know that feeling.
Right. And this perspective says the answer is rarely just out there in the world. It's usually an internal feedback loop that's become so automatic we mistake it for destiny.
In this loop, it's not a punishment.
Yeah.
It's just information being reflected. The field mirroring the blueprint you've unconsciously sent out. The mechanism is pretty simple, actually. You have a painful experience, right? And it leaves this energetic residue. Your subconscious logs it, stores it, uses it as a reference for future safety. It starts to anticipate similar outcomes, and it subtly shifts your thoughts, your behaviors, your feelings to match what it expects, which in turn changes your frequency. And the field, being loyal to your frequency, mirrors that expectation back, and boom, you find yourself in another version of the same story.
And this isn't just in your head, right? This pattern gets deeply woven into the biology of your nervous system. Your brain actually wants to conserve energy, so it prefers the familiar, even if the familiar is painful. It often picks predictable suffering over the uncertainty of joy.
It's wild, isn't it?
Yeah. So the loop just keeps going. Repeated thought leads to familiar emotion. Emotion reactivates the belief. Belief influences perception. Perception filters reality. Reality confirms the belief. And round it goes until that pattern feels like, well, like you, like your identity.
And the tricky part is, most of this runs beneath awareness. You're not consciously choosing to recreate the same old thing. You're just living out an unupdated vibration. This can even lead you to unconsciously sabotage good things, new opportunities, if they don't fit the internal blueprint you're carrying.
Okay, but here's the hope. Here's the opportunity. This loop isn't self-sustaining on its own. It's self-fed. And anything that's self-fed can be interrupted by awareness.
Exactly.
The second you become conscious of a pattern that keeps playing out, you introduce something totally new. Choice. And choice, this view argues, disrupts the autopilot.
Yes. Awareness, especially when you can sustain it, starts to dissolve the loop. Not by fighting it, but just by observing it, by choosing to stop identifying with it. Breaking the loop means you stop rehearsing the past. You stop letting past pain define your present identity. Because the quantum field, remember, isn't believed to operate on your history. It operates on your current frequency, right now. That's why transformation is always possible in the now, because now is when the signal is being broadcast. Change the signal, you change the mirror.
It makes sense. So many people feel stuck, not because they're weak or flawed, but maybe just because nobody ever taught them how to interrupt their own broadcast. But knowing this, understanding this loop, That gives you power. It empowers you to choose. And choosing is how the loop starts to unravel. Okay, so let's really anchor this core idea. You are not just reacting to the world around you, you are actively signaling to it. Every single moment, whether you realize it or not, you're transmitting a frequency through your thoughts, your emotions, your expectations, how you see yourself. And that signal, it's not just vanishing. This perspective says it's being received, mirrored, and responded to by the very fabric of the quantum field. You're not just a product of reality, you are its co-creator.
Hmm. And that idea, it can really challenge everything we've been taught. Right? We're conditioned to think life just sort of happens to us, that things come from the outside. But when you start seeing the mind, not as this private thing stuck in your head, but as a field, like a wave interwoven with everything else, it changes the game. You start to realize that what you think, feel, and believe isn't just passive internal data. It's seen as a causative force. Your thoughts aren't just neutral. They're like instructions. Each one emits this tiny electromagnetic signal. And when that signal gets amplified by emotion, it becomes a coherent broadcast, a vibrational code. The more aligned your thoughts and feelings are, the clearer and stronger that signal is. And the field is described as precise. It responds to the totality of your energetic state, your overall vibration.
So the mind isn't just watching, it's a transmitter. It's projecting your inner world outward, and in doing so, collapsing certain probabilities into your actual experience.
Yes. And here's a really important distinction the source makes. The signal you're emitting isn't just based on what you consciously want. It's based on what you consistently embody.
Yeah.
You can say, I'm abundant all day long, but if your underlying emotional signature, your vibration, is still rooted in lack or fear. This perspective suggests the field responds to the lack. The mind becomes truly creative, truly powerful when it achieves coherence. When thoughts, emotions, beliefs all line up into one unified message, that's when the signal gets laser-like focused and really potent. And that's when the field can respond in ways that seem uncanny, synchronous, even miraculous. But it's not seen as mystical magic. It's described as physics made personal.
Right, coherence. That makes sense. It's why people talk about alignment. It's not just a nice word.
Exactly. Alignment isn't just a metaphor here. It's described as a literal vibrational reality. The more your inner world stabilizes in a certain frequency, maybe gratitude, peace, empowerment, the more the field is believed to just naturally organize itself to reflect that back to you. It's about correspondence, like attracts like. It's not about controlling things from the outside.
So picture yourself as, what did the source say? A frequency-based organism in continuous dialogue with a living field.
Yeah. Your life isn't just happening randomly. This view suggests it's responding to you in real time. When you shift your internal state, the field shifts too. Maybe not always instantly like flipping a switch, but inevitably. The signal always precedes the shift.
And that's what conscious creation is about then, aligning internally so clearly, so coherently, that the external world just naturally starts to match.
Really much. You stop chasing things out there. You start radiating the frequency that draws them in. You stop looking for external proof, and you become the evidence yourself.
You are the signal, the seed.
And the field returns what you sow, like an echo.
Okay, so let's talk about those moments that seem to defy logic. You know, the quantum events.
Right. Those times when something you desperately needed just appears out of the blue, or a coincidence feels impossibly perfect. We call them miracles, synchronicities. But underneath that language, this perspective offers a more precise view. These are described as quantum events. And they're not random. They're seen as tangible evidence that your consciousness has interacted with the quantum field in a coherent, creative way. A quantum event, in this model, is literally the collapse of potential into form. And it needed your specific frequency to pull it into your experience.
Wow. Okay, so the idea is in the quantum model, every possibility already exists, like potential realities. The version of your life where you're healed or loved or abundant or free, it's already there, encoded in the field as potential.
That's the concept, yeah. So the real question isn't how do I make it happen? It's have I become the version of myself who resonates with that outcome? It's not about wishing harder. It's about embodying it, feeling it, being it. So a quantum event happens when your internal coherence, your alignment, gets so clear and stable that it meets a matching potential in the field and collapses it into your timeline. You're not pulling it towards you like a magnet. You're meeting it where it already exists in potential.
That's a shift. So most people experience these things by accident, like in moments of clarity or surrender.
Often, yeah. They touch that state of alignment without really knowing how they did it. To create them intentionally, this perspective says the field requires alignment, not effort.
Mm.
You can't force it. It's informed by resonance. You don't push reality into shape. You become the pattern that makes the desired outcome inevitable. Through embodied presence, through sending a coherent message into the quantum fabric.
And maybe that's why the biggest shifts sometimes feel effortless.
Exactly. Not because no energy was used, but because the energy was clean, coherent, undiluted by contradiction. When your whole system lines up like that, it's like the source says, the universe begins to move in your favor.
So these quantum events, these miracles, they aren't random gifts. They're reflections of frequency.
And that frequency starts with you. Your job isn't to wrestle the world into submission. Your job is to become the version of you for whom that change is already reality.
Okay, so let's bridge this. How do we go from understanding these ideas to actually, transforming our experience? That shift, it often starts small, doesn't it? Like a whisper, a quiet rearranging of events that might feel accidental at first. You might just notice an inner shift, feeling more present, maybe less anxious, more open, without knowing exactly why. That inner shift is the first signal. Then the external markers follow a synchronicity, an unexpected door opening, that feeling of perfect timing.
Right. And it's so important to trust those subtle shifts. If you're not tuned in, you can easily overlook them, dismiss them as coincidence. Why? Because often our old programming tells us transformation has to be hard, earned through struggle, that anything good requires massive effort. But this perspective says the field isn't testing you, it's just reflecting you, plain and simple.
So recognizing these shifts needs a new kind of sensitivity, like listening beyond the five senses.
Yeah, and a willingness to trust your self-perception, that gut feeling, even when your logical mind is going, wait, what? That doesn't make sense.
Oh,
Like the source says, the shift precedes the evidence, the feeling comes before the proof.
okay. So pay attention not just to what shows up, but how you show up to it. Am I moving with more ease? Am I more curious, open to the unknown? Those are signs the frequency is changing.
Exactly. Those are good indicators.
So how do we actively bridge knowing this stuff with actually being it? Because understanding frequency is one thing.
But shaping that frequency deliberately, consistently,
Hmm.
until reality responds. That's the real work. That's the core of this practice of alignment.
Okay. How do we practice?
Well, this view holds that the field is shaped by resonance, right? And resonance starts with clarity. So step one isn't about pushing hard. It's about focused intention. Get crystal clear on what you truly desire, and not just intellectually clear, but with vivid, emotionally charged specificity, like you can feel it, taste it, see it. This clarity isn't a demand you're making on the universe. It's more like a declaration, a powerful signal saying, this is who I now am.
Okay, clarity first. Got it. Then what?
Step two is embodiment. You have to become the frequency of its fulfillment now. The quantum field isn't responding to future you. It's responding to current you, right now. So you have to feel the emotions, think the thoughts, and breathe the energy of the reality you wish to experience as if it were already yours.
Okay, so feel it now. That sounds like tuning, not pretending.
Exactly. It's tuning your internal state. Now, your nervous system might resist. It might feel uncomfortable, unfamiliar. That's normal. Your job is to remain, to breathe through the discomfort until this new vibration starts to feel more dominant, more natural.
Okay, clarity, embodiment. What's next?
Step three is expansion. Once you're embodying that state, you then consciously extend your energy into the field. Not like you're trying to grab something, but more like merging with possibility. You can visualize your energy radiating out, connecting with that vast potential. You're synchronizing with the frequency you desire, not trying to force it. Use your imagination as a vessel for feeling that connection.
Okay, clarity, embodiment, expansion. And the last step, this one sounds tricky. Release.
Yeah, it's the most paradoxical one. Once you've aligned, embodied, broadcasted, you have to let go.
Oh.
But not because you don't care anymore. It's because attachment creates friction. Trying to force it, constantly checking, is it here yet, actually signals distrust in the process. When you release with trust, with this calm, anchored knowing that what is aligned will find its way, you create the space for it to manifest easily.
Ah, okay. So it's trusting the alignment itself.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And this whole thing, clarity, embodiment, expansion, release, It's the art of sustained alignment. It's not a one-off trick. It's a way of being. Quantum events, this view argues, are created by consistency, not just short bursts of intensity. When your internal world stabilizes in that new frequency, the external world has to eventually reflect that stability.
Yeah.
You literally become the embodiment of what you once thought you had to chase.
Yeah.
The field is just waiting for your signal to become clear, and your signal becomes clear when you become clear.
Right. But it's crucial, isn't it, to understand that just knowing this stuff isn't enough?
Oh, absolutely critical. Knowledge without embodiment does not create change. Information is not transformation. It's a great line from the source. Only lived experience, actually feeling it, being it, can rewire your relationship with the field. Integration is the alchemy, turning insight into identity. It's a sacred unfolding.
So we don't necessarily need more information, more books, more videos.
Not necessarily. What you need is to become a different signal.
Become a different signal. And that's not just thinking differently, is it? It's vibrational. A shift in posture, presence, how you relate to everything moment by moment.
And this is where people often get tripped up. They wait. They wait to feel confident enough, or they wait for external proof before they'll really believe or embody it. They wait for perfect alignment.
Right.
But quantum creation, in this view, doesn't work like that. The field isn't waiting for you to be perfect or masterful. It's waiting for your coherence. You don't need total certainty. You just need to be honest, present, and willing to align.
So the real journey starts when you stop asking, okay, when's it going to happen?
Yes. And start living as though it already is right now, in energetic alignment. You start carrying the vibration of what you want. You speak from that place of love, or move with that confidence, or walk with that feeling of abundance. Not as an act, but because that's your new state.
But what happens when you forget? Because you will, right? Life happens.
Oh, you absolutely will forget. Old patterns will surface. The world will try to convince you separation is real again. That's guaranteed. But the key isn't never falling off track. The key is knowing how to return, to breathe, recenter, forgive yourself, and choose a signal again. It's about the overall pattern, not perfection. The field, this view suggests, responds to your dominant frequency over time.
Okay. And integration also means letting go of needing immediate results, not constantly measuring.
Yeah, like planting a seed. You don't dig it up every day to see if it's growing. Your work is to stay attuned, keep choosing alignment, even when your logical mind is screaming for proof. Because the most profound shifts often happen in the unseen, under the surface, before they break through.
The truth is, you're always becoming something. Every thought, choice, feeling contributes to your frequency.
Right. So the only question is, are you becoming by default, just letting old programs run? Or are you becoming by design, consciously choosing your state?
And that shift from knowing to embodying, that's the threshold of mastery. Not mastering life, but mastery within it.
Yeah, the power to meet each moment coherently. To see challenges not as roadblocks, but as gateways to even greater coherence. Who you are is a signal. And once that signal is truly embodied, consistently, it becomes undeniable.
So as we wrap this up, hopefully something's becoming really clear. Not just as an idea, but maybe like a quiet cellular remembrance. That you are not separate from the field. You're not an isolated mind trying to influence some distant universe, this perspective says. You are the field. You are the signal. You are the collapsing wave turning potential into reality. That division we feel between creator and creation, thought and outcome, self and source, maybe it's always been an illusion. So what does that mean, practically, day to day? It means your thoughts aren't just random noise. They're seen as codes etched into the fabric of existence. Your emotions aren't just personal feelings. They're energetic beacons shaping the architecture of your reality.
Yeah. Every expectation you hold, every belief, where you habitually put your focus. It's like a ripple in the quantum field, reorganizing matter in response to your vibration.
It comes back to that powerful idea, like you are not in the universe is in you.
And with that comes this radical shift in responsibility. Not heavy guilt, but this awakening of your innate sovereign power.
You stop waiting for signs from the universe.
You become the sign.
Exactly. You embody the frequency that makes the change you desire inevitable. You stop chasing the life you want, and you begin living as though you are already the person who receives it.
Not pretending, remembering your true nature. And every moment you can consistently sustain that alignment, you're reinforcing the timeline, the reality of your highest expression. And you can trust the timing, because the field, in this view, is never late, it's never withholding, it's always matching your vibration with astonishing precision.
So the real miracle isn't even that the world responds. Maybe the real miracle is that you finally see it, you finally believe it, and most importantly, you start living as if it's true.
Hmm. So let this be the final thought, the remembrance. You are not here to wait for your reality to change. You are here to become the change in frequency that transforms everything. You are the creator and the creation, the signal and the receiver, the question and the answer. Your power was never gone. It was just unused. And now it's yours to reclaim. So
Right.
choose your signal, embody it fully, live it relentlessly, and watch as reality rearranges itself around you, not because you forced it, but because you finally became it.
What will you choose to become?